Rolling down the highway, steady in my ride. Flip the roundabout, see the city lights glide. Peanut butter smooth, my engine revs so clean. Design on the block like a civil machine. 3D visualization, spinning to the top. Freeway dreams, never gonna stop. Beyond KD, the future's in my sight. Civil engine roaring through the night. Tonight, lane, strings.
Civil Engine's advanced traffic system supports vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, and rail, offering flexible customization and control. Users can place and customize paths, refine assets from an extensive library, and precisely manage merge and diverge points. Enhanced with intersection controllers and dynamic adjustments, this enables realistic, comprehensive traffic representation across complex project scenarios. This feature is still in beta as we continue to improve with more testing and development. Let's get started. All right, welcome to this video on advanced traffic in the Civil Engine tutorial series. In this video, we're going to cover how to place and manage traffic, including vehicles, pedestrians, and other elements. I do want to just discuss that we're keeping this in beta as part of the initial launch of Civil Engine, and we will continue to develop. You can see here we have this beta tag. And the biggest reason for that is because path linking is still a work in progress, as are some of the global traffic settings and the individual path traffic settings. So while most of the traffic does work, just a note that it's still in beta as we continue to refine and improve. All right, so what I want to do is just show the very basics of traffic by placing a blank path. So you'll see here, I'm placing 3 nodes of this path. There's nothing on it right now. If we want to add traffic, we could add an asset slot, we can search for traffic, and then we can scroll down until we find traffic, all traffic set. So now you can see here, we've got moving traffic, the wheels are turning, we're good to go. I don't advise this. This is not the best way to place traffic. I just want to show this as this is the very basics. You see here, we've got a path visualizer, but it's not wide enough. And so while this is a way you can place traffic, the best way to do it is actually through path presets. So you'll see here, the first category is O1 traffic peds. Most of the time, this is how you're going to want to place your traffic. So we've got a number of different options here. We can place traffic all, which includes trucks and all other types of vehicles. And you can see here, we've got a blue visualizer. It's wider and it's animated with arrows, and that's just a quick visual indicator if you have your path visualizers turned on, which is down here, that these are traffic paths as opposed to other types of paths. So just get used to using the path presets to place your traffic paths one at a time. So let's delete the blank one and let's select our traffic path. You can see here we've got the details panel just like for other elements within Civil Engine. But we do have this traffic tab here. And as a note, if we deleted this, if we removed this traffic slot, you'll note that we lose those options. We have nothing to control in terms of speed or volume, and so that just goes away. So let's delete this and place a new path from scratch. All right, so now if we select this path, you'll see these options are here available again. And as a note, we're still trying to clean up the UI. There are some legacy elements from Beyond Typicals as part of the development here. But for the most part, these are the options that you have per path. So by default, it's 40 miles an hour. If we wanted to do a school zone and make it 10 miles an hour, we can do that. We can also increase and decrease the volume. This is not a perfect science. This is just something that you can turn up and turn down. The goal of this is to get a visual representation of the traffic you want. So if you want to show free-flowing traffic, you can do that. If you want to show a traffic jam, you can do that. But none of this is scientific. The goal of Civil Engine is not to be simulation or design. The goal of Civil Engine is to be a visualization tool. And as a note, we do not offer at this time any method to import Vissim or Synchro or any other type of traffic simulation data. And so our goal is to make the best traffic system possible so that you can, again, represent traffic as you want to for your project. And also as another note, we've built an incredible library of dozens of different 3D assets that are cars and trucks and SUVs and semi-trucks and pedestrians and rail. And the ones that you'll see on the default, especially when you use the presets, they're the ones that we've selected to give the best representation of traffic, to make it blend in the most. But there are a number of other options, and we'll go to through those more in detail, including some vehicles that have more color. All of the default traffic is monochromatic. We got whites and grays and blacks, but if you want more color, there is options in the vehicle library. So back to the details panel, you'll see here we can control the speed, the volume, and we can also control the traffic distribution. We can do that by type or by vehicle. So types are various types of categories. So if we want to show more cars or less cars, we can dial that up and down. The same thing with SUVs, pickup trucks, commercial trucks. This one doesn't have any public transit by default. We could turn that on. We also have some specialty types as you scroll further down. But by default, most of the time you can just leave this as is. And then also down here in the bottom right, we've got some global settings for traffic. I already showed the path visualizers, which can be turned on and off. And we've got simulation speed, so we can turn that up to 10x or maybe 1x. And as a note, if you turn it up too fast, you're going to get traffic backed up. That's something that we're aware of. And you can turn it off and then reset it by turning it back on. And then we can also pause at any time. And so if you want to set up the traffic for a certain render, or if you just want to check things out, you can do that. You can pause it. Maybe you're working and you don't want traffic to show up, then you can turn traffic off. But you have all those controls at any time from that bottom right corner control panel. All right, one other thing that I want to point out as well is when you use these path presets, you'll notice there's kind of a dark pattern in the middle, and that's what we call a wear path. And the wear path, if I turn off our visualizers, if you look at roads, you'll notice a lot of the time there's a natural wear pattern, and some of that is from the rubber of the tires, sometimes it's from oil dripping, but either way, there are natural linear patterns along roads. And so we've added that as a second asset slot for these traffic presets to give that added realism without any additional effort. And personally, we like it. If you don't like it for whatever reason, sometimes it doesn't make sense, then you can go find that asset slot number 2 and you can delete that asset slot. And that way you'll still have traffic, but you won't have that wear path. If you want to edit that wear path, you can also do that. You can just go to that second asset slot. You could control the width. If you want to make it wider, you could also add a third asset slot and then make a double wear path, or we do have a preset for that. If you go to the pavement marking section, you can put that below as well, like that. All right, and now I want to talk about the different types of traffic presets we have here in the path presets. So we already discussed the different types of vehicles that we have, and you'll see there they've got that blue path visualizer by default. And then we also have things like cyclists, and you'll notice here this has a green path visualizer. We've got walking pedestrians. We've got jogging pedestrians. So the walking are yellow, the jogging are orange. And then we've even got shared use, which is kind of a teal, and that includes cyclists, scooter riders, and joggers all in the same path. So that's really nice for quickly throwing down pedestrians for a shared use path. We also have several different types of trains, including a heavy type train. And as a note, the articulation will be improved when you see your version of Civil Engine. We also have light rail, which we covered. That's a customizable rail type as a dynamic asset. That's something we covered in the asset video, so check that out. And then we also have a high-speed rail, which is a different train model. And again, you can control the speeds here. It's 40 miles per hour by default, but we can go up to, if we really wanted to show a high-speed rail, we could go up to 200 or more, depending on what we're trying to do there. We also have parked cars here, which are the only non-animated element in these presets, but those are really nice to quickly populate parking lots. And then finally, we've got two different types of aircrafts. We've got a small airplane and we've got a large airplane. And these can be shown to be taxiing in a runway, or they can also be made to take off. If you take the endpoints of those paths and you simply lift them up, then you're going to get kind of a takeoff. And this will make more sense if we turn off those path visualizers. And obviously you can control the speed for those as well. All right, so traffic starts to get more interesting and more useful as we add more and more traffic paths, and then we start connecting them using intersection controllers and merge diverge links. And again, when I say traffic, I don't just mean vehicles, but I also mean pedestrians, cyclists, and other elements. So we've got a blank asphalt slab right here, and we're going to do kind of this bare bones, simplest version of placing traffic and then connecting it using an intersection controller. So I'm going to start by turning on the path visualizer, and then I want to place a few traffic paths, just like we're having a very standard type road with very standard type intersection. All right, so you can see here we've got a few lanes placed in one direction and a few lanes placed in another direction. They're crossing, they're going through each other. If this is like uncomfortable because the cars look like they're crashing, you can always just turn that off while you're working. That's fine. So what we want to do now is go to the hierarchy, go to the path section, and for convenience, I'm going to name these because that's going to be useful when we get to the intersection controller. So let's call this one, let's call it East 2, and then let's name this next one East 1. All right, so we've got our paths named down, and if you have the opportunity to name your paths, you're probably going to have better success down the road because it's just going to keep things more organized. You can also organize those into folders, and sometimes this is useful. Maybe you want to call these vehicles, and when you start adding pedestrians, you want to add them into your own folder. All right, so let's now do an intersection controller. So we've gone to our traffic panel, and we're going to add a new traffic intersection. Intersection 1. You can rename this by clicking the edit button, and we'll call this CET for Civil Engine Tutorial, INT for intersection, and 1. So we got CET intersection 1. You can see here we have up to 8 phases. 2 of them are on by default, and they're all set to 60 seconds by default. We also had a yellow duration of 4 seconds and a red duration, all red duration of 4 seconds as well. All of these can be edited. So since all 6 of these paths are intersecting, we need to make sure we add them all to this intersection controller. So you can see here in our dropdown, it's going to show all the paths that we've placed. And for now, it's going to show up non-traffic paths. In the future, we want to make sure that that's cleaned up. But since this is all we have here, we can just add all these. All right, so we've got all 6 of our traffic paths added. Now we can go ahead and set the stop bar for each of these. So for this, we want to make sure that the stop bar visualizer is turned on. And now we can go ahead and place those by scrubbing left and right on this spin bar. And we want to make sure that they line up with the stop bars or where the stop bars would be in this case. And you can see they're pink when you're moving them. And then they're going to go to the phase color when they're linked to the phases. And that's just for highest visibility possible because it's really important that you can see these to make sure you place them in the right spot. All right, so now we've got them all placed. And if you're doing this with the traffic on, you'll notice that the traffic will stop. And right now, we don't have that all set up. So we're going to start doing that correctly. So right now, let's make these shorter because we don't need to have long durations. And let's go ahead and turn the ones that we want to phase 2. So east and west, we all want them to be on the same phase, and then north and south, we want those to be on phase 2. And you can see here, there's also a countdown seconds until next phase up here in this information box. And you'll notice that all red duration, it just gives a few second pause while everything is stopped. And that's how real intersections work because you just want to, it's kind of a safety buffer to make sure that cars aren't going to drive through each other. So you can see here, we already have our traffic intersection working. And at the end, it's going to switch wait through the yellow and the red, and then it's going to switch to the other direction. We can turn on or off the path visualizers for this process. You'll see we've got our wear paths there. And then you can always speed up or slow down the intersections using the simulation speed down here. So this is really handy for intersection controllers because you don't have to wait the full 15 seconds. It's going to go much more quickly. And again, as a note, we do have a bug where the traffic doesn't leave the path. And so if you do that too much, you may have to reset and start over, which is fine. Or maybe you can just leave it on 2x, which seems to be fine in most scenarios. All right, so let's say that we want to start adding other types of traffic to our intersection. Again, this would all make more sense if you're doing a base model. This is obviously just a blank slab for testing. But we can go here and we can do peds walking. And let's say that we have sidewalks that are kind of going parallel to these traffic paths. Let's turn back on our path visualizers and place those pedestrian paths. So you'll have to use your imagination just a little bit, but I'm going to reset my traffic. So now if you go to our paths, we have our vehicle folder. We could turn all that off if we wanted to, turn it back on. Then we also have our peds path. So this one I believe was west. So we'll call this peds west. And now we need to go to our intersection controller, and you'll see here, those are now available down at the bottom of this drop-down list. We can add that path, add the next path, and then we need to place stop bars for these as well. And you'll notice that these stop bars are smaller. And now when the pedestrians come along, they are going to stop and go with the traffic. And they're on phase 1, and we want them to be on phase 1 because they're going to go with the east and west traffic as well. All right, and I'm not going to get into the details of how to set up intersections and intersection controllers. Part of that is every intersection is different. Part of that is I'm not an expert in this, but this should be powerful for most types of intersections, or at least to represent your traffic. But I will say, give some tips. Like right there, the pedestrians are getting run through because our red duration wasn't long enough. There just wasn't enough space between the phases. And so we can sit there and we can make that longer, and that should solve that and other problems. But again, I'm not an expert in this, just something to think of. All right, and let's say that we want to add a left turn lane. So let's go add another traffic path. All right, and then you'll see here, let's put these pedestrian ones in a folder. And now we've got that left turn here. So let's just call that left turn for convenience. And now we want to go back to our intersection controller, but we don't want this left turn to go during the east-west phase or the north-south phase. We want it to go in its own phase. So we need to make sure and add that path. And then we can make this one shorter, and we need to make sure we check that box. And then we need to make sure that this is phase 3. And if you add obviously left turns in different directions, you could add them all to phase 3. So now you're going to see here, we're on phase 3. Everyone else has stopped while that one's going through. That one's going to stop, and then those cars are going to wait while the east-west goes, and then the north-south goes. Actually, I just noticed my problem. That's that I didn't put my stop bar. So let's put our stop bar, and now we should be good to go. And part of that delay as well is we put that 10-second all red duration because we don't want our pedestrians to get run over. All right, so I've started a new Blink project. There's nothing here. I've also just turned the background to black just for better contrast of our path visualizers. And I want to start now showing how you can do multiple intersections in a variety of different ways using intersection controllers. So we're going to start by placing our traffic paths. I'm going to make them longer this time, again, because we're going to be doing multiple intersections. All right, so I've placed these paths, and now I just want to make sure that we get them named appropriately. All right, and then one other thing I'm going to do is just I'm going to go to basic rendering, and I'm going to save a few cameras just so that I can quickly jump from one intersection to another without having to constantly scroll and navigate using my mouse. So let's rename this one intersection 1. All right, so again, there are two ways you can handle this. One is with two intersection controllers, and one is with one. So we'll start with one. So let's go to traffic intersections and make sure that we add just the paths that are associated with this intersection. So that's north 1, that's south 1, that's east 1, and that's west 1. All right, and then we're going to adjust and find the stop bars. That's going to be a little bit more difficult with these long paths, but still not too crazy. All right, and then we just need to make sure that they're on their own phases. So let's shorten these down to 20 seconds. And the yellow and red duration, I think, are going to be fine for this example. Okay, so you can see this intersection is now working. We can speed that up. Let's go to 5x. The problem is this other one is not. So we're going to use one intersection controller, and we're going to go ahead and add those other ones, east 2 and west 2. But we also need to add our north and south one more time as well, because we're going to put multiple stop bars on the same path. So this might be confusing, but you can see here we've got north 1, south 1 up here, and then we have north 1, south 1 down here. And again, that works perfectly fine with these intersection controllers. You're just going to place multiple stop bars. So that's what this essentially is multiple stop bars. So if we go and we put these east and west stop bars, and then we can choose the phase. And honestly, there are multiple ways you can do that as well. We could make them the east and west 2 and the north south 1, or we could do it opposite. If you are in this industry and you know more about intersection controllers than me, you may say, you know, Sam, it makes more sense to have the north-south be on the same ones because we want them to go clear through multiple intersections without having to stop. So in that case, we can change those to 1. These ones are so far away that it's probably not going to matter. But either way, you're going to get at least functioning traffic. Let's reset. We're getting backups. So reset here. Let's switch between our cameras. So we've got intersection 1. Everything seems to be fine there. And then we've got intersection 2. Everything seems to be fine there. So there you have it. We've handled all of the traffic for 2 intersections using one intersection controller, which probably isn't typical, but that's just one way that you can handle it. All right, so now let's look at the other option for handling multiple intersections, and that's simply to use multiple intersection controllers. So let's start with the first intersection. Let's rename this intersection 1, and then make another one, and we'll call this intersection 2. And as you can see, we can collapse those or open them back up. So with intersection 1, which will be this one right here, let's do the same as we did before, where we need to add all of those paths. We need to set the stop bars. And then these other ones we didn't need for this, so let's delete them. And then let's add east and west to phase 2 and shorten our time. All right, so we've got this one taken care of. Now let's go over to the other one. And we want to do the same thing. We just need to make sure to add east 2 and west 2. All right, so now we need to set the stop bars here. And then same thing as before. Let's make sure north and south are both on phase 1, and then east and west on phase 2. And also control our intersection timing. Actually, let's make them both long just to see. For north and south, let's make those 60. And phase 2, which is east and west, we'll make those 30, just because I want to see if we can get north and south all the way to the other intersection before the signal changes. So let's now speed up our simulation. I'm going to adjust my field of view so we can see this better. All right, so you can see we can have multiple intersections along the same paths, either with one intersection controller or with multiple intersection controllers. So again, you guys are the experts. You're going to have probably more complex projects than what I'm showing here, but these are the basics, and I'm excited to see what you can do with it. All right, we'll stick with this design for the next step, and that's to show how we can link traffic signals with intersection controllers. And again, these are still beta features and they don't work for all of them, but they are working to some extent. So let's start with adding some mast arms. And none of this is going to be perfect. Again, this is just illustrative. But let's say that we want to put some signals over these lanes. So I talk more in detail about how dynamic assets work in the asset video. So go there for more information. But essentially, we want to make templates of these signal heads. One of the limitations right now is you can't just click it on the mast arm. You have to put it below it and then lift it up. But that actually works because then we can make sure it is right over the lane. Let's adjust our field of view. There we go. So we want to make sure that when the traffic stops, so does this traffic signal. And if those selector icons get in the way, you can always just go to the hierarchy and you can lock it, and then that's not going to show up anymore. All right, so what we want to do is go back to our signal head template. We want to click edit, and then you can see here it says intersection link. We want to link this with intersection 1. We want to make sure that it's linked here, but you're seeing this is green, the stop bar, the traffic's going through, and it says red. So what we want to do is we want to change the go phase from 1 to 2. So now what we've done is we've linked that intersection controller with the intersection. Oh, and then that's the last thing. You just need to make sure that that signal is set to off. That's just another tweak that we need to do. But now you can see there it went green, and then our signal is green. I'm actually going to grab that, turn off the locking, and I'm just going to scale it way up so that we can just get a exaggerated view of what's happening here. All right, so that's how it works. I'll do it once again, and I'll do it faster just to do a few more cycles. Let's reset it, and then let's set it to 10x. All right, and you can see this in action if you go to the top example project, which is the Florida Diverging Diamond, donated by our friends over at Ardura. I'll start by turning on the stop bar visualizer, and then you can see here we've got these traffic signals that are linked to the stop bars. We've also got some pedestrians that are linked to these intersection controllers. So you can see this in action. This may actually require further tweaking, so feel free to go here. We've got both ends of this diverging diamond handled with a single intersection controller. I highly encourage you, if you're interested in this, to try and do this your own way and see if you can get some better results. But for the most part, this does seem to work, as proven by turning that to 5x speed and just seeing how the traffic flows pretty well. You can see there that lady was run over, and again, I think that's something that we can handle by making a longer all red duration to make sure our pedestrians get across the crosswalk. All right, so we're now going to show how to do merging and diverging. Again, this is one of the primary reasons why we're still in beta for this, because we're still working out the kinks here. But assume that we have two lanes adjacent to each other on a freeway and we want them to merge. We want traffic to merge, which is very common. This is also a really good way to handle yield scenarios. So if you go to traffic, you'll see this tool link, and then you can go to create path link. So now we're not going to have much action because we need to turn on our path visualizers. All right, so now you need to click from one node to another node, and you'll see here now we have a link between these two paths. From here, we can adjust the speed, and this is the speed when they're merging between them. We can also adjust the start path position, the end path position, the ease in distance, the ease out distance, and then you can also adjust optional diverging as well. And then if you're somewhere far away and you want to jump right to this, you can click jump to. It's going to zoom the camera in. So this is functionally how it's supposed to work. Again, it doesn't always work right now. Depending on when you're watching this, we may have this fixed, but as of now, it's inconsistent in when those come over. That said, let's try and turn up the traffic speed and see if we can get one to merge. All right, so you can see there we did get one to merge over. There's a truck that merged over. Let's add a third lane and see what we get. Anyway, so you'll see them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Test it out yourself, and just a warning that your mileage may vary. All right, so we're back to this Diverging Diamond project to show how we can manage other settings of our traffic. So this is our global traffic settings, and just like you can do things per path, you can also do them globally. You'll notice down here we've got a couple options. Let's start with advanced settings. You can adjust the frames per second, and this is something if you're struggling with performance, you could go down just to show extreme. Let's go to 1 FPS, and you'll see how that's just calculating 1 frame per second. Probably not going to be something that you want to do unless you're trying to be clever. This is 10 FPS, so you can see here, still not great results. The default's 120, but even if you have something like 60, that's probably going to be just fine. We also have gender and ethnicity distribution for our pedestrians. And this is a really cool way if you're trying to show a specific demographic, you can do that here. So we have, our gender ratio is 50-50 men and women. We've also got Caucasian, Black, Latino, Asian, and Middle Eastern. So just to show extreme, let's go to more women and then reset and see if we get that. You'll see here, now everyone that shows up is a woman because we've adjusted that in our gender ratio. All right, so for this next part, I'm going to show how we can globally manage our traffic library. And when I say the traffic library, what I mean is the specific 3D assets that make up the vehicles, the pedestrians, the cyclists, and so on. So what I want to do here is I need to do global traffic on all paths. That's going to force these settings to all the paths that have already been placed. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off our pedestrians because sometimes, again, this is a beta feature, these don't always work with pedestrian paths. So if I turn on our path visualizer, that's our vehicles, that's our pedestrians. So we're going to turn these off just for this demonstration. And these are the things I really recommend you kind of play around with, especially with these example projects. All right, so we can adjust the ratio. So let's say that we want more trucks than what is shown. So we can go here and let's do 50 cars, 20 SUVs, 10 pickup trucks, and let's do 15 commercial trucks. These are percentages that I'm going to be using. And then 5% motorcycle, 0 public transit. So I'm going to reset my traffic, go back to here, and now we should get those distributions. And it may be difficult to see because that's so subtle, but let's get more extreme. Let's say that we want, if you go to pickup truck, we've got this futuristic pickup truck that looks, kind of futuristic. And let's say that we want every vehicle to be that. This is the future. Everyone's driving these futuristic pickup trucks. I don't know why, but that's just the way things are in the future. So now if I reset, you'll see here, I only got pickup trucks. Let's go back to our pickup trucks, and looks like we had that one still showing up. So now let's reset again. And again, this is a very unique future that we're living here with all of these futuristic pickup trucks. Not saying that's the way the future is going to be, just sometimes it feels that way. All right, so you could pause that and you could take a look around. So you can adjust these subtly. You can be dramatic about this. If we wanted, we could have, let's do all commercial trucks. And I'm going to turn on, we have a bunch of different models that don't show up here. So let's get those turned on as well. Just make sure that they're all equally distributed. Go back to type, make sure that we're set here, and then let's push play and reset our traffic. So now we have a world where it's just semi-trucks, but this one's a little different than what we've shown before because this has 5 different semi-truck models versus just that one futuristic pickup truck. So make sure to check out, we've got some really cool realistic models with reflections and turning wheels and chrome and all that stuff. They're really nice. I want to show a few ways where this is really useful. Let's go to low poly vehicles. And this is a nice option that we've added in Civil Engine, either because, again, you're worried about performance, or maybe you just like the aesthetic of low poly. You're trying to communicate that this is a draft design, this is not final, And we can do that. We got to turn on all these low poly vehicles, but then we got to go back to type and turn that up to 100, turn everything else down. And so now you can see all the vehicles that show up. We've got several different low poly models. They're all going to be these. And the wheels turn just like everything else. The trucks should hopefully articulate. They got that low poly look and feel if that's what you're going for. Or again, you're really worried about performance of your civil engine scene. All right, then one other really cool thing you can do with this is we can go down to the bottom. We've got arrows, and you can see we've got a few different colors. So let's say that we want to do blue, the large ones. Go back to type. Let's turn low poly vehicles to 0 and arrows up to 1. And one thing you'll notice too, if nothing is turned on, if none of those thumbnails are turned on, like for example, let's go to pedestrians jogging, none of those are turned on, then you're not going to have the option to turn that on here when you're going by type. So now we've got these arrows. Let's reset our traffic, go to a faster speed. And after all those other ones get cleared out, you'll see here we've got this really cool visual graphic style of just arrows. So again, let's reset. And you can use pathway arrows to communicate, but the beauty of this system is these arrows are going to obey our intersection controllers. And so something like a diverging diamond, if you have a pathway arrow, let me set that up real quick so I can show. All right, so I just set up pathway arrows, which are again super useful, a really good part of civil engine, a really important part of what we're trying to do with visual graphics. But the problem with these pathway arrows is they're just going to keep going all the time. Our intersection, it's stopping, it's going, the pathway arrows are going to keep going. So that's the limitation. The thing that makes these other arrows so nice, so let's turn off our pathway arrows and turn back on our traffic, which is represented by these arrows, is they are going to be respectful of those intersection controllers. And so just another way to visualize more complex transportation projects, and feel free to mix and match or choose whatever makes sense for your own project. And again, I'm really excited to see what you all can do with these sorts of tools. So just in closing, we have dozens of different vehicles that are actual realistic 3D models. You can see now we've got a blend of our arrows and our other traffic. But by default, we've got monochromatic cars showing up, but you can turn on these other cars. If you want to get some more color in there, feel free to play around and get those turned on. Maybe we just want red and blue cars. So we could do that, turn cars all the way up, turn arrows all the way down, and we should just have red and blue cars. So you have full control over your traffic library using the advanced traffic system within Civil Engine, again, with the limitations that we've already expressed. But other than that, there's just a lot of amazing things that you can do. And again, I can't wait to see what you can come up with. All right, so I'm at another example project here. We call this Bend Roundabout. And I just want to cover scenarios that aren't always covered with typical intersection controllers. They don't have traffic signals. They're more determined by merging and diverging. And a roundabout is a great example of that, although there are many others as well. Eventually, I think our merge diverge should be the best solution for that. I think in this scenario, what you would want to do is put a circle all the way around your roundabout and then connect all of these incoming and outgoing paths with those merge diverge links. That way they're going to go, they're going to wait for the other cars, they're going to merge when there's space. Because that's not always working, the best way to do it currently is just by managing with an intersection controller. So you can see here, we've got, let's turn on our stop bars. We've got all these different roads coming in. And the goal typically for visualization, even of a roundabout, is we just want to communicate what the project is doing, and we want it to look realistic. So if there's no stopping, then you're going to have cars driving through each other. If there's too much stopping, it's going to be an issue. So part of what the problem is here is sometimes they're stopping and waiting too long. And honestly, sometimes the only solution is you just got to take 10 different renders and find the one that actually looks the best. But you do want at least someone yielding. And so right now, these are all 10 seconds. I think the best way to handle this is we can make them super short. So if we go to 2 seconds, and then let's make the yellow and red duration 1 second. Then what they're going to do is they're going to kind of come up, they're going to pause, and then they're going to go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an orbit camera, right click, orbit. I'm going to slow this down. And then I'm just going to kind of let it cook for a little bit and see if this gives us something realistic. All right, so one thing that I think we can improve on here is there's just not enough traffic, especially not for our testing. So we can go here to hierarchy, go to paths, go to vehicles, and then we can select these one by one, and we can adjust our volumes. So the volume is just super low. So let's make it up to like 4, and then let's speed it up. So now you can see here, even with more traffic, we're getting something pretty realistic. We're not getting very many cars conflicting, and we're getting that sense that the cars are coming up to the stop bar or the crosswalk, and they are at least yielding and looking out for other vehicles. So now we've been watching for several minutes, at least in terms of simulation time, and I don't think I've seen any conflicts. They would happen eventually because we have so much traffic right now, but this would be very easy to get some convincing renders that make it look like the vehicle's stopping, especially if we turn off that stop bar visualizer. Obviously that's just for testing. We set up our cameras, we made a render. This is actually a really good representation of how traffic works in a roundabout, and it's all done with an intersection controller. Again, once we got merge diverge working better, then you'll have that option as well. But until then, this is a really good way to handle roundabouts and other less typical scenarios.
The path with a 3D dream.
All right, so that covers it for traffic. In the next video, join me as we get into a deep dive with phasing and alternatives.
Right, peanut in the sound waves, take the night bite, right? Every line's a journey from dream to the ground. Echoes of the freeway, a symphony profound. Beyond engineering, it's heart in the flow. Bridging every ride like rivers below. Civil engine whispers crafting dreams with style. Every digit, every loop, going an extra mile. Round the rhythms keep us spinning in tune. Through the bricks and junctions from morning to moon. Vision clear roads ahead, pathways so grand in this